Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for adhering to the schedule. Our next speaker is Mr. Ian Stewart, the Queensland Police Commissioner. Commissioner Ian Stewart is a career police officer with over 38 years' service. He commenced in the role of Commissioner on 1st November 2012, after having held numerous senior positions across a broad range of portfolios within the QPS. Commissioner Stewart is the recipient of the Australian Fulbright Professional Scholarship, the National Emergency Medal, and the Australian Police Medal. As Deputy Commissioner, Commissioner Stewart was appointed the inaugural State Disaster Coordinator and was responsible for coordination and overview of statewide disaster response operations during the unprecedented flooding and cyclone events throughout Queensland, December to February 2010-2011. He has played a key role within the national security agenda. Commissioner Stewart was the inaugural chair of the Investigation Support Capability Coordination Subcommittee for the National Counter-Terrorism Committee. Please put our hands together to welcome the Commissioner.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an absolute privilege and pleasure to be here today. And I was answering some questions earlier about my appearance at this very, very important event. And I was told it was very nice of me to be here. But in reality, for your Commissioner, the Commissioner of Police in Queensland, it is so important for me to come to events like this so that you have the opportunity to talk to me one-on-one. You have the opportunity in open forum to ask me questions, because I am your Commissioner. I am the Commissioner of Police for Queensland, but that encompasses the entire community. And that community in Queensland is one of the most diverse cultural communities in Australia. I was just recently mentioning that in just one city in this state, there are 149 different cultural groups, and the second most spoken language after English is actually Samoan in that particular community. I think it indicates, or should indicate to all of us, the challenges of ensuring a peaceful and secure community for your police service, that we have such diverse ranges of cultural, religious groups within those particular areas. It was also a fairly easy choice for me to make when I was invited by Venerable Master Ching Kung to attend today's event, and I do recognise and acknowledge him, although he is away at the moment. Because Toowoomba is my hometown, and I always try and take the opportunity to get back here as often as I can. It is a wonderful city, and I congratulate you all on the concept of not only this forum, but making Toowoomba a centre for peace in Australia. I would also like to acknowledge Venerable Wu Xun, who is here in the audience, and thank you very much for being part of what I consider a very, very important process that's occurring in this room today. And that is having ideals and ideas openly discussed, how we can better work and live in harmony. I certainly would like to acknowledge all the faith leaders that are sitting in this room and who've been part of this event, this forum. In particular, Bishop McGuckin, who is at the table in front of me, and all the members of the Goodwill Committee in Toowoomba. Certainly I'd acknowledge the previous speakers. I really enjoyed that last session. It was quite enlightening. And also the question time afterwards. I'm just a bit concerned now of the sorts of questions I might get asked.
I'll behave.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But to all of the distinguished guests and to all of you, good morning and thank you for having me as part of this important forum. Since becoming Commissioner, and that's only a few short months ago, I have outlined 3 clear priorities for the Queensland Police Service. I expect all members of the Queensland Police to every day work to support each other to stop crime, to make our community safer and to build strong relationships. Now, I say stop crime because I believe that this is the direction that we need to take. I want police to have, our police, your police, to have an aspirational goal and to actually believe that they can stop crime in their area, not just reduce it. It is only from having this mindset from the beginning that we can hope to achieve the ultimate goal of a peaceful and secure society. This is a relatively simple context. However, achieving this outcome takes people of the highest calibre and commitment, people with a unique combination of skills. I understand that the mission of the Pure Land Learning College Association Multi-Faith Multicultural Centre is to establish Toowoomba as a model city of peace and harmony where people from diverse faiths and religions cooperate, observe the rules, positively influence, respect and learn from one another. And these are the same qualities that I expect from your police and our staff members when working with each other. Further, achieving the goals of stopping crime, making the community safer, building strong relationships, that will not happen with police working in isolation. Support from all areas of the community working together to achieve these goals is absolutely essential. When I refer to the community, I'm not just referring to those people that live in a certain area. I'm talking about those people and groups that have an involvement in an area. This includes government and non-government organisation, such as other departments, local clubs and societies, universities, non-government organisations, including organisations such as Drug Harm, but charities, schools and of course churches. Building relationships is about building trust, and trust relationships mean we get things done smarter, more effectively and often reduce costs in a more timely manner of working together as a team. Police are actually very good at working in teams to achieve our aims. The team might be an officer and their partner, an officer and their work unit, or in fact an officer and the whole organisation. But also it might be our police and our partner agencies outside of the organisation, be they government, community or not-for-profit groups. These relationships need to be built over time. Every time you meet someone new, no matter who they are, a complainant, an offender, a community member, or a member of Parliament even, we, as your police, need to treat them with respect and dignity. Every single person in the community has the opportunity and power to change the environment in which they live. They just need the passion, desire to be better, and faith in the ideal of service. We build relationships through these interactions, and the winners are both the Queensland Police Service and the community. I'm not talking about a soft approach to crime or necessarily to offenders. What I am saying is you can still treat someone with dignity, even though our staff have had to intervene and potentially even use force. That's the nature of what we do. So I'm not advocating necessarily a kid glove approach, but every contact we make can be made that in a way attempts to de-escalate, not escalate a situation. Perhaps that philosophy can also be reinforced by Christian teachings, and perhaps the words, "as we forgive those who trespass against us." If that is not possible, then my expectation is that police will use their training and their equipment in a professional manner. Our situational use of force model dictates that only reasonable, proportionate and appropriate force is used to resolve a situation. Officers are expected to embrace the philosophy of consider all options and practice safety when dealing with incidents that require the use of force. There are three qualities, underpinning qualities, that I expect all of our members, I expect our people to act with courage, fairness and pride. All police are seen as leaders within our community, and police need to have the courage to take on that role in all its forms as part of their oath of service. It's not just physical courage that I'm talking about, it's moral courage as well. Fairness is about transparency and consistency. It is about using the available evidence upon which to base our decisions, ensuring they are consistent and can withstand scrutiny. Every member of our community, regardless of their demographic or socio-economic background, deserves to be treated equally and with dignity and respect. I'd just like to comment, in the plenary session we've just heard, the issue of respect for one another came up. My own personal philosophy is that you need to respect yourself as part of that overall philosophy. You need to have respect for what you are and what you stand for, because it's only then you can truly respect others in our community, in our society. Where police undertake their duties to the best of their ability with courage and fairness, then they should take pride in themselves for the work they have done to enhance both their organisation and our community. They should also be able to have pride in working together to achieve these aims with other police and with the community that we serve. But I'm not talking about an egotistical pride. I'm talking about that quiet pride from knowing that you have done your very, very best and with the best intentions. That's the type of pride that I talk about. Previously, it could be argued that most conventional police work could be defined as being primarily reactive and incident-driven. The greatest emphasis was on police responding rapidly to individual calls for service. This reactive style of policing evolved naturally over time. In the past, police have faced far fewer demands for their time and services. However, as our society evolves, the demand for policing services grow dramatically, almost every day. And in order to respond to this change in workload, police have had to change the way that our services are delivered to our community. The main disadvantage of incident-driven policing is its limited effectiveness as a strategy to deal with root causes of incidents, relying simply on an incident occurring and providing a police response. In comparison with this, a problem-oriented or problem-solving approach builds on the best of the past. It is obviously much more than just a new tactical program to be added onto the prevalent forms of policing. In its broadest context, it is a whole new way of thinking about policing that has implications for every aspect of our organisation, our staff and our operations. With a problem-solving approach, it is necessary to identify and treat the underlying conditions that led to the problem, thus hopefully eliminating or reducing it. The Queensland Police Service has embraced the concept of problem-solving in partnership with the community. For police to maximise the effectiveness of problem-solving, partnerships with the community are absolutely essential. The majority of problems that become policing problems often reflect community concerns which police may not be able to identify, let alone resolve, without that community input. This approach is not intended to take the place of reactive policing. Rather, it enhances the capacity of your police to provide more effective services by addressing those underlying causes of crime and dysfunction. This approach to policing is certainly not unique to Queensland or even Australia. Studies have been conducted around the world, and there is significant evidence that a problem-solving approach in partnership with the community is highly effective. It enables a wider range of alternatives to the criminal justice system to be considered. Strategic partnerships with external agencies and groups can be utilised to address particular problems and/or issues. We are also rapidly moving towards evidence-based rather than intelligence-led policing, where strategy is driven by hard data, where evaluation of everything we do is becoming a fundamental requirement of our work. An excellent example of community partnerships is the relationship right here in Toowoomba, by the involvement of Sergeant Scott McGrath, who's in the audience, our District Crime Prevention Coordinator, as part of the Goodwill Committee for Toowoomba, where key representatives of your local face and the community agencies can meet regarding our common goals of building bridges and cooperating with one another. There are also a range of other examples throughout the state that the Queensland Police Service is very proud to be involved with. Many of you would know of the Neighbourhood Watch scheme. The program was initially launched in 1988. The benefits of community consultation and engagement have been recognised by our current government, who have further invested in the program to reinvigorate and renew the Neighbourhood Watch scheme throughout Queensland. This program provides a vital link to our communities and results in a two-way flow of information that ensures the local community is better informed and provides relevant and timely information concerning current trends and issues to the Queensland Police that may not be evident from merely inspecting crime data. Another example is the Adopt a School program, launched only this year, which seeks to enhance the service delivery by the Queensland Police to our school communities by implementing a framework to build positive relationships between local police and their school communities, and to facilitate the identification and resolution of education and police-related issues. Coordinating the local implementation of the Adopt a Cop program, including the appointment of Adopt a Cop to every school wishing to participate, and the ongoing supervision and support of Adopt a Cops is fundamental to the Adopt a School program. The Adopt a Cop program, which many of you would know, was implemented back in 1985, and it continues as one of the probably most important areas for police interaction with young people throughout the state. It has been and continues to be a major success story for us. The current government have also implemented a Station Community Crime Reduction Officer program. The government believe that will deliver a safer community in relation to the work that the police do. The concept is that every police station will have an officer whose particular role is to work directly with the community on crime prevention activities, and certainly that is supported by our organisation. We've talked about the Adopt a Cop and the Adopt a School programs, but in addition to that, we have the school-based policing program, which again has been a joint initiative with the Education Department of Queensland and provides a safe and supportive learning environment for all students. Many of our schools, and there are about 50 across Queensland now, have school-based police officers working full-time in the school environment. And again, another way that we can interact and potentially shape and mould some of our young people. Volunteers in policing, a very, very important program for us. The aim of the program is to recruit and train local community members to carry out a range of voluntary tasks that complement but do not compete with the established responsibilities of police and other staff members. In general, these tasks will assist police to deliver a range of services designed to reduce crime and help people feel safe. It might interest you to know that there are approximately 300 VIPs throughout Queensland right today. Other examples include the development of culturally specific information packs. A good example of that is a DVD that's been produced by the Queensland Police Service to assist the Chinese community for those visiting our shores or attending school in Queensland. The DVD and the information packs provide information about our legal system and about the interaction that they can expect and the way that they should interact with their police department, us. The research of crime prevention through environmental design, or CEPTED as it's currently known, is also a proven crime prevention approach which has been shown to reduce opportunities for crime and incivility by designing environments in a way that lessen or prevent the incidence of crime. The Queensland Police Service has and continues to work with town planners around the state to reduce the opportunities for crime which occur because of poor environmental design of buildings and also public spaces, and in particular things like street lighting, fence design and other built environment features are part of the advice that we provide to those designers. These are all excellent examples of how your police department is working behind the scenes in partnerships with the community to try and reduce crime and to make our community safer. Some other case studies that I'd like to touch on where, again, your police department is working potentially in areas that in the past would never have been considered. But a good example of that, and not only events such as this or forums such as this where you have police officers involved in committees, you have police officers coming to talk, but we undertake things like multi-faith dinners. Our Metropolitan South region in Brisbane, as you know, an area that's rich in cultural diversity and a home to more than 200 different cultures, 150 language groups and in excess of 130 religious faiths. And in an effort to try and bring together all of the leadership from the faith communities, our region actually hosts a yearly multi-faith dinner. In the years from 2008 till last year, we hosted 4 of these multicultural and multi-faith dinners as a mechanism to forming and engaging and serving our communities to address multicultural issues in that particular area. These functions have been found to break down barriers between cultures and faith groups and build considerable rapport between the police and those community groups. The multi-faith dinners may be broadly determined by the following indicators, and the success of those dinners have been noted in terms of the number of multi-faith leaders in attendance, the diversity of the spiritual groups in attendance, and perhaps most importantly, the feedback and the follow-up actions and the networks that are developed between those leaders and the police as a result of those dinners. But we also have some very practical examples of projects that we undertake with our community to try and reduce harm out across different areas. And in the far northern region, which is the area that takes into account the Torres Straits and the whole of Cape York, our drug squad from Cairns has explored avenues to address drug-related issues in Indigenous communities within that region. A project proposal was approved and formed in a partnership with James Cook University to conduct research into cannabis abuse within those communities and implement supply reduction, demand reduction and harm minimisation strategies. The Regional Organisation of Councils of Cape York and the Island Coordination Council signed a shared responsibility agreement with our service to implement the project strategies and work in partnership with our organisation. The project has received funding through other government departments, and packages were developed in local Indigenous languages that aimed at educating communities about the impact of cannabis abuse, including mental illness, self-harm, domestic violence and child abuse. Since the project commenced, there has been a significant increase in both intelligence submissions and Crime Stopper calls from those areas of the state. And this significant increase in reporting of drug activity to police demonstrates the significant change in community attitudes towards drug use and the way that police are assisting to reduce the supply, which is the primary objective of the project. Again, another innovative way that the police work in harmony with the community is through community events such as sporting programs. We have instituted a program, again in Brisbane, called For the Love of the Game, which encourages interaction and improved understanding between youth from diverse cultural and religious backgrounds. We have used these programs, these sporting programs, to attract young people who are at risk, marginalised and sometimes disadvantaged, and we have used sport as the basis of that interaction. Since the formulation of this particular program, there has been a decrease in youth crime across the metropolitan regions, but particularly Metro South. It has been very successful and recognised through the provision of a range of awards. But there are only a small number of examples of how your police department is working outside of the square. It's not simply enforcing the law, it's aiming to work with partners in the community to stop problems before they occur. And in order for us to move forward, we need to conduct critical self-assessments of our achievements as an organisation and as a community towards our goals. And I see forums such as this one as doing just that. As an organisation, we undertake our own internal operational performance review process, and that process focuses on operational police identifying, analysing, responding to and assessing crime and disorder problems in the community. The problem-solving process supports operational police by encouraging and recognising innovative responses to identified problems. And the OPR process can also provide opportunities for members from various external groups to attend and participate by our convening of themed reviews that are designed to address particular issues. A particular example that I'm quite proud of is our Indigenous policing, OPR. This particular review process, which has occurred over the last 2 years, has involved in representatives of obviously the Queensland Police Service, but more importantly, an invitation to every mayor of every discrete Indigenous community in Queensland to come together to talk with other government departments and other community representatives on ways that we can work together to better the conditions and the working relationship of police in those communities. We certainly have seen an enhancement in the relationships, particularly the trust relationships that I talked about earlier between us and the Indigenous community of Queensland. The intent and commitment of the Queensland Police Service for police and community partnerships is best summed up by the new Queensland Police Service vision of members of the community work with Queensland Police to stop crime and make Queensland safer. With strong leadership embracing courage, fairness and pride in our organisation and our communities, this vision will flow through the organisation and change the culture to ensure that police at every level are constantly looking for partnership opportunities with the community to achieve our ultimate goals of stopping crime, making the community safer and building strong relationships. Thank you, and I look forward to no doubt some interesting questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. May I now invite the floor to ask any questions you may have for the Commissioner.
This is not really a question, so please relax. A few years ago, a Korean young woman was killed by car accident, and I was helping them as a translator with the police officers and hospital staff and solicitors and court and JP. And I was very, very moved by the police officers, not only with their efficiency, also being very patient with the parents. And you can imagine parents coming from Korea to settle all these matters. And also they showed compassion. And when they actually attended the funeral, the parents were just so moved. You know, they asked me, police officers attending, funeral, and they really wanted to thank officers, and it was really wonderful. It was very sad, but it was just a wonderful experience for all of us working with the police officers. And the parents wanted to give a gift. So I took a box of chocolate too, and then JP, and she said, no, we are not allowed to receive gift. It was just a box of chocolate. So, well, I don't know who ate in the end. Another incident was I was called the middle of the night that a couple of Korean visitors, young visitors, and Tumba youth got into arm wrestling contest. And again, I just found the officer who was going through with these two young people very, very professional and so patient. And I would like to acknowledge to all of you, and especially to you, how the police officers in Tumba are really helping not only us living here, but also visitors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ian, Mark Sugden's my name. Look, what I wanted to know is, what methods do you use with new immigrants coming into the country where they're confronted with totally different new laws, often tribal laws and cultural laws which are quite different, some are a lot harsher. Generally in Australia we're very lucky, and perhaps we are seen as fairly lenient on crime. And the judiciary often comes into a lot of criticism, and I know how frustrated that must be with police officers, particularly seeing judiciary not seen in the public to be pulling their weight or doing the right thing by society. So their organisation that represents them is doing a poor marketing job. If they are indeed representing society, then they're not doing a good job in getting the message across. Now, my question basically, coming back to that, yes, perhaps I'm coming from a new tribal area in Africa, for instance, where the treatment for crime could be quite brutal. Even in cultural Australia, and from some of our Aboriginal brothers, the old tribal laws of spearing the guy bloke in the leg. Perhaps I agree with that. Perhaps I agree. I won't say whether I do or I don't. But so I'm just saying, right, my question to you, coming right back to after that little commentary, is what methods are you using to a new immigrant to say, this is what Australian law's about, and this is the way the judiciary acts? Thank you.
Thanks, Mark, for that very, very easy question. I am not going to comment on the justice system, except to say that I think I am very grateful that we have such a wonderful justice system in this country. It goes to the heart of what the question is, that we have many, many people that come to our shores now looking for a better place, not just for themselves but for their family and their children. we work very, very hard to reach out to those groups, to those people, to those individuals, to help them understand that they actually don't have anything to fear from the Queensland Police Service, rather that they should see us as people who are prepared to provide the hand of friendship and to work with them as they transition into the norms of our society, however long that might take. One of the things that I think the Queensland Police Service does very, very well is exactly that. The way that we reach out to the different groups, whether they be multi-faith or multicultural, it doesn't matter. We do it in a sensitive way, but some of the difficulties you've actually touched on. How do you deal with someone and try and convince them that the police, who represent the government and the community in many ways, actually are there to assist them, and that we are not a daily threat to their lives, as occurs in many of their countries? It is a conundrum. It really is. But it doesn't stop any of us from working towards that. And we work not just by ourselves, but this is where I think particularly the faith groups within our communities, I think, have a very, very big role to play, because it's through those faith groups, hopefully, that we can get that very strong message across that the police are not there as their enemy, they're not there to threaten them, to rob from them, to do worse than that, that we are actually there to serve them as we serve every other member in our community. It's a tough job. One of the ways we do that, and I mentioned it earlier, is that we have the Police Liaison Officer scheme, and many of you will have heard of that. We have a large number of officers who work in our organisation. They're not fully sworn officers, because we do have many officers from different cultural groups who are fully sworn, but we have a large range of police liaison officers from different cultural areas that work directly with their group, their cultural group in society. And to give you an example, we have Chinese, we have Japanese, we have members of the Tongan community, the Samoan community, and they're only to name a few. We have many Indigenous PLOs, and their job is to act as a bridge between us and those cultural groups in a less threatening way at times, because we do represent force. That is what police ultimately are expected to do on behalf of the community, and that is to use the ultimate device to ensure compliance with the laws of the community, and that is to use force, but in a particular way. And that's why I talked about that in my presentation quite strongly, because it's a responsibility we take very, very seriously, and we take it seriously in the way that it's actually done. But many communities have had a long history of perhaps very different examples of use of force. And I'm not just talking about those who come to our shores, I'm even talking about some of our own communities here in Queensland and Australia. So we have a range of programs where we work hard to work with the community, to educate and to assist those newcomers. And in particular, and I wasn't going to, I don't want to draw this particular question out, but in particular, the cultural norms of some of those different cultural groups coming in are significantly different, particularly in the way that they treat each other within their own communities, and that also causes some challenges for your police department in providing for their safety and security as well. I hope that answers the question. Thanks, Mark. There's a couple down the front.
Comment and a question. I always say my grandfather founded the mafia in the United States. He was a police officer in the early part of the last century. He closed down the opium dens in Dallas. Now, before that time, we didn't have a mafia. No organised crime. Then we tried prohibition afterwards, which I remember. That was a lot of fun. And then it really got big. So as a comment, I think we ought to be really grateful to the police, because you poor police very often are enforcing bad laws. Have you ever thought of these politicians, that get up and they really make laws that we think we want, but they're bad laws? And I just wonder, how many of you ever smiled at a policeman, just said, thank you for the job you're doing. Good on you. And I think we ought to do that more than we do, because you've got a tough job. And we don't appreciate that enough. You brought up something about the type of evidence-based versus intelligence-based. Would you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, I was hoping no one would pick up on that.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. For many years, we've practiced intelligence-led policing, which means that snippets of information that come in, sometimes not quite validated information, you bring that together and you strategise your operations, intelligence-based. And I'm not talking about intelligence in terms of smarts, I'm simply talking about intelligence in terms of the type of information coming in, just as you have intelligence on the battlefield, the same sort of thing. Evidence-based policing is where we're moving very rapidly, because no longer do we have the ability to waste time and effort on those initiatives which perhaps don't have a solid foundation. So we've taken the next step in that evolution, that we can actually say quite categorically, here is the evidence, this is why we are now doing it this way. Or here is the evidence, this is the strategy that we've put in place to try and address that. But very critical to that is the ability to be very agile and flexible as an organisation, because the strategies and the initiatives that you put in place, even through evidence-based policing, for a whole range of reasons might not work. And you've continually got to be refreshing that evidence. You've got to be evaluating everything you do and then changing course if necessary in terms of how you address that particular issue. Does that help? Okay. Now we've got a couple in the front here, I think. The young lady in the second row as well. And the gentleman in the front row.
Hello. Can you hear me? Thank you.
Yes.
I just have a very simple question, Commissioner Sir. The standards you specified for a policeman are very high standards. And many a times the jobs they get into are very risky. They put their lives into risk.
Yes, they do.
You have considered that?
Yes.
Just wondering whether there is way out of it, because there's more and more of that happening.
This is the thing that keeps me awake at night, and I'm very serious about this. Our officers, every officer who joins us as a sworn officer makes an oath, and the oath is to protect the community. Before they make that oath, we make it very clear to them that at times that will mean that they have to put themselves in harm's way. You, as a community, you see but a snippet of examples of that occurring across Queensland. I can tell you that a very interesting story, actually. You will have all know of the incident in the Queen Street Mall only a couple of weeks ago, where a man came into the mall with a firearm, and our officers were able to peacefully resolve that situation by putting themselves at risk on behalf of their community. And they did an absolutely outstanding job. At the same time that was happening, up in a little community called Arakoon, up in the Cape, there was a bit of a stoush going on between about 50 of the local community. They were having a little bit of a discussion, and Two of our officers were standing in between two groups, about 25, 30 people each side, and the spears were going over their head. And that's the truth of it. So these things happen I'm not saying they happen on a daily basis, but they certainly happen more often than people know. Now, did you see that on TV? Of course you did, because there's no TV up in Arancoon. There's no media crew up there. But our police did an outstanding job of resolving that situation peacefully too. No one was hurt out of that situation either. So every day our police turn up to work and they just don't know what they're going to face. We train them, we equip them, we try to inculcate values and the very, very important values of that respect and dignity that I talked about before, of being fair, but of having courage, because to be a police officer sometimes you need to have that physical courage. Can I stop it with a magic wand? No, I can't do that. But I will do everything I can to make your police safe, because I want them to be able to go home after the shift as well and not to end up some other place. Thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Peter from the Interfaith Church at Logan. Firstly, I want to mirror what other people have been saying. I understand what it is to serve the community. I've served in the Defence Forces and now I serve in other ways. And thank you to your men and women and yourself for continuing to serve the community in a way that is very difficult to do and very needed. My question to you is, we're a peace forum here. How much does diversity or the diversity of community come into the crime statistics?
Peter, that's a really good question. Unfortunately, our crimes patterns across this state are skewed. They're skewed towards particular groups. Some of that is on cultural grounds, and it is. But in other ways, it's simply on age group grounds. Young males between the age of 14 and 25 are the biggest offenders in Queensland, no matter which crime class you're going to look at. That's the bottom line. We know that. We work very, very hard to address that. But we also know of the overrepresentation of the Indigenous community in our crime. The sad part about that, in my personal view, is that in some communities, being involved in crime is just what people do because they haven't got anything else to do. And then once they get into the spiral down of that involvement in the criminal justice system, getting to jail is somewhat seen as a bit of a rite of passage, particularly for young males, and unfortunately for a growing number of young females. What we know, though, is that once some of those people enter into that system, into the corrective services environment, they actually find that, and this is a real dilemma, they find that they're better treated there than they are in their own community. And of course, they end up with 3 square meals, a safe environment, which I know might sound a little bit of a conundrum, but it's not. It's a safe environment. Their health care is looked after, and they flourish. Some are able to break the cycle. And I hope some of the evidence and the work that we're starting to see in Great Britain, where private security providers who operate some of the prisons are now being forced through the contractual arrangements to put at risk a component of their payment based on recidivist behaviour by those people once they leave the prison. In a nutshell, what I'm saying is the prison operators are being required to put in place programs that will stop people coming back into the system, and they're actually paid on the basis of that. it's a really interesting turn of events, and we're watching with great interest how that might occur. I'm very hopeful that something good will come from that. The other reason, the fact that we know that particular cultural groups are overrepresented in particular types of crime is one of the reasons why we have so many programs operating and why we have such diversity within the police service. Because the police service should mirror the diversity of the community. And that's what we're trying to do. And we have special programs that try and facilitate people from those different cultural groups coming into the police service as full sworn officers, because we know that that's the best way for us to be seen to be serving our community. I hope that mirrors it. And Logan's a particularly challenging area for us, not in a negative way, but just in the complexity of the community that is there, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Thank you. We've got a couple in the front. Sorry, someone at the back? Yes.
Good day.
You're a long way away. You're going to have to speak up.
Good day. This is wonderful what you said about...
I'm sorry, I can't.
Making the oath. I have two questions. One is the racism and one is the cause of the crime. These two should be considered very deeply to be eliminated from the crisis between the parties, whether you're enforcing or the other one. I was just wondering if you bring that as a legal...
Yep, I'm truly sorry, I can't hear you. So perhaps someone could we just... Yep.
As a legal obligation to test the morality of the individuals you employ they're employed in that department, any department, especially yours, that they don't have that what they call dislike or hatred towards anybody.
Oh, okay.
That is the main cause of the trouble and conflict, as most of us know.
Okay.
If I dislike somebody for no reason, I start attacking her or him for no reason. And it can develop elsewhere. The other one is the cause of not to work on the symptoms, but the cause of those people are drinking, they're using abusive things. What is it? Is it because they're unemployed, they are also put down, they have been humiliated, they have not been respected or recognized as a member of a society, this indigenous part, and all the rest of this.
Yes.
So these two issues are really important to bring peaceful, harmonious relationship.
Thank you.
I would request that to be considered properly.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
If I can just clarify what I think I've been asked. The first one is about the attitudes of people who work in the government and departments like mine. In other words, can we have someone working in a department like mine that is actually racist, totally racist? The answer to that, I think, is quite honestly no, we can't. And we work very, very hard to consider the attitudes and the psychology of our recruits when they come through the door. And we have methods of dealing with aberrant behaviour by people within our own organisation. We have a very strong discipline process. Some would say too strong. I would say that I think it's quite balanced. I think that was the first part of your question. The second part that you talked about was the fact that many of the people that we come in contact with are very disadvantaged and have very difficult histories and come to our attention because of that. It's a fact of life that policing often deals with the consequences of failures in other systems in our society. And when I talk about systems, I'm even talking about family life. So a failure in a family life way back here puts a person on a path that ultimately intersects with policing way over here. So we often deal with those consequences. I think policing generally around the world in the progressive areas of first world countries in particular, and we're leading the way in this, in my opinion, We've long recognised that just simply trying to deal with consequences is not the answer. And that's why we need to be dealing in partnership and, on occasions, leading interventions way back over here to try and stop people spiralling down into a life of crime or dysfunction. Now, that's a hugely complex task. No one's got it right, and we know that because we still have people going into our jails, we still have people entering our criminal justice system. But it shouldn't stop us from trying, in our profession, to work with the community to stop people entering the system or the criminal justice system ultimately back over here. There are many things that we can do. It's one of the reasons why we're so heavily involved in schools, and every one of the examples I gave you earlier, the case studies, are designed to reinforce that early intervention process, not simply to be for us to enforce the law at this end of the system. I hope that's answered your question. Thank you.
Commissioner, thank you very much. I would like to follow in the footsteps of all the people who thanked you very much. We do appreciate it. I have seen, I'm a teacher, and I have seen a number of the police intervention in many areas. So, of course, now I'm retired, but I was teaching in one of the real troublesome schools, and the police intervention always was wonderful. I have seen other cases, so thank you very much. I'll be very quick, Commissioner. I'm interested, did I understand correctly that you said you hold multi-faith gatherings or consultations? And if this is the case, may I know this multi-faith, could you kindly explain a bit about this? I'm very interested. I'm a member of the Baha'i faith, yes, and the whole ideology of the Baha'i faith, like every other person here, is peace and unity and that's togetherness. Right. Yes. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And thank you for your question, and thank you for your kind comments. I remember Anna Bligh, the previous Premier, once saying, it's easy to do your job when you stand on the shoulders of giants. That's how I feel every day about the Queensland Police Service. It's easy for me to do my job because of the wonderful work that's done every day by our people, and that's the truth of it. But the second part, you talked about the multi-faith issue. We've long recognised that our involvement with the multi-faith community, with the community and the faith communities of all different colours, is very, very important, because that's our community. That is the Queensland community and the Australian community. By us supporting a yearly dinner, by being involved with the Multi-Faith Centre at Griffith University that many of you would know of, that is a really important relationship for us. We have a range of chaplains within the Queensland Police Service, and that's an area that they're there to support, to give pastoral care to our people, but they often give it to victims and other extended family members. That's an area that I hope in my time as Commissioner that I can expand upon to give greater access to the multi-faith groups to our organisation as well. So I'm certainly doing some things behind the scenes to look at that. But again, I simply say the faith communities are very, very important to us as an organisation because of the work that you all do within our communities, and I thank you all for doing that. And I look forward to working with all of you to strengthen the building blocks, the principles, the values of our community, because that's what I think the multi-faith groups do very, very well. Thank you. I think this might be the very last question. I'm getting a wind-up over here.
Thank you, Commissioner. I know a number of the programs that you've already listed, and also the direction in which you're moving. Some of it I picked up at your induction, and also the previous police commissioners' goals and so on. one of the things that I sort of felt has lapsed a little bit is the fact that in the early part of your post-induction, there was a lot of media interest and so on. That seems somehow to have focused now on some of the negativity that's been going on in areas, and you seem to get that in every news program, and there's no real highlight to the profile of what the police is doing in the terms of the positive aspects of it. And I wondered, Commissioner, whether perhaps there's some way in which you can get a profile update of the police or what happens, like particularly the incident you talked about in the north, things like that might have been missed on day one but could be introduced on day 2 or 3 as to what has happened there as an update through the media processes. I think a media factor is going to really hearten and encourage the community's response to the resources and to their respect for the police services, which has improved considerably and is not properly known in a broader way. And also perhaps some sort of a promotional DVD that community people could have of what you have just said.
Yeah. No, thank you, and it's a very, very good idea. I think our interaction, and when I say our, all of us, our interaction with the media and the way that the media portrays our community and groups within our community is a critical issue. But if I had 4 or 5 days, I'd like to talk to you about the changing nature of the media and the fact that the Venerable Wu Xin, who was sitting beside me earlier, was also at the same time using his Galaxy notepad. And the digital world is with us now, and that gives us huge opportunities to put up an alternative to what the traditional media want to put out there into the community. It gives us a way of actually, in many respects, actually getting ahead of the media cycle to put out some of those good news stories and also to clarify issues that are occurring within our communities. And again, as I said, we probably need about 4 or 5 days in another forum just to talk about that, of how we collectively could work together to deal with that sort of environment. But having said that, certainly it's a great idea about the DVD, and I'll take that on board. Thank you. Now, I did say that was the last question, but there's a gentleman here who's had his hand up for about 3 hours, and this young bloke in the front.
Well, I'm taking the responsibility of claiming to represent the old fogies that you've got in your audience here, and following on with Peter's comments a few minutes ago, would it be practical for the police to issue their own magazine or newsletter or something and distribute it to every letterbox in town?
Yeah, we actually do a whole range of things like that already, but costs are an issue for us, just like cost is an issue for everyone. So we're doing a lot of that digitally now. Now, that helps people who have the expertise and the time and the equipment to actually access those programs on our websites and on our advertising areas of the organisation. For other people, Neighbourhood Watch is a great way for us to get good information out, and we do that regularly through Neighbourhood Watch. But in real terms, the 24-hour media cycle that occurs now is happening so quickly that today's news is not just old news by tomorrow, it's old news about an hour after it hits the ground. And that's the reality of it. So we're challenged by that cycle and how do we best provide that information and what we're doing to the entire community. But we have some great partnerships with the traditional media as well, and that's, putting that information into your local newspapers is very, very important area for us to provide you with information on some of the things that are happening. There's no simple answer to this, and I think we're all being challenged by the transition into that digital world. Look, thank you very much. I think I'm standing between you and lunch.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you for giving your time to be here with us. Venerable Wu Xin, on behalf of the organisers, would like to hand over this gift as a token of appreciation. Should bring your chocolates too. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We have a gift register. I'll put it on the gift register. It's okay.
May I invite the Most Reverend Robert McGuckin to the stage? Another nice surprise. Thank you for your inspirational talk yesterday, and thank you for being here today.
I'm not a religious priest, so I didn't take a vow of poverty, and I haven't got a gift register. So thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to an end to this morning's program. This afternoon's program will start at 1 p.m. sharp. Please note it is a comparatively shorter lunchtime compared to the previous 2 days. We have our dialogue circle after lunch, and we will have 5 groups too, and the facilitators will be announced after lunch. Please be seated by 12:55. Also, may I ask you to find in your documents the evaluation form and take some time to fill that in. It is valuable feedback for the organisers. Thank you, enjoy the short lunch break, and see you after lunch.